Hi everybody, welcome to Zephyr's Garage. Today we are tackling one of the first projects on our Thunderbird. For those of you who may be new to this channel, this is our 1989 Ford Thunderbird Super Coupe. It is a low mileage car with right about now, about 40,000 miles on it. It is all stock. Well, it was for about a few days ago. We've started doing some modifications to it. And we're going to go into those modifications in this video, what I'm doing, why am I doing it, and we'll show you what the outcome is. When I bought the Ford Thunderbird, I went through the car and I looked at things that it needed, and I made a list up here. And you can see here I put ball joints, fix the AC, re-dye the back seat, replace the radio and the speakers, paint correction, fix the driver's power seats, brakes, tune-up, oil change, oil filter, all that stuff I figured the car was going to need. If you notice, replacing the wheels was not on that list. So it wasn't something it needed. The tires and wheels and really actually now the brakes probably would have been fine, though the rear brakes would have needed to be replaced at some time in the near future. But I wanted to make the car a little bit my own, and one of the things to do that was to put a different set of tires and wheels on it. So I decided to bump that to the top of the list and do that project first. So what we're doing is we are setting the car up to accept Mustang style wheels. And now I'm not just talking about a particular look of a wheel, I'm talking about the bolt pattern. See, these Thunderbirds were designed with a bolt circle that is 4¼ inch diameter. Mustangs and Fords for like forever were designed with a bolt pattern of 4½ inches. And Ford used that from like the 50s on to today. The Mustangs still have that same bolt pattern. But this car, because it was designed at a time when Ford also owned Jaguar and Volvo, they leaned heavily into their European partners and adapted a bolt circle that is used on those cars. So it's the 4¼ 5-lug bolt pattern. And there's not very many wheels available to fit that bolt pattern. So I wanted to upgrade the tire and wheel package on this car because the tires and wheels were a little dated, being that what was a performance tires 35 years ago are really not available anymore because tires have upgraded and they're larger diameter and all kinds of stuff since then. So I wanted to take advantage of a little bit of that technology with this car and upgrade the tires and wheels. So let me grab one of the original wheels for the car and I'll show you what I mean. So this is one of the original tires and wheels for the Thunderbird. That came on it when we bought it, I should say, but these are the original wheels. These are replacement tires, obviously. 35 years old, I wouldn't be driving on these tires. These tires are really actually only a year old. They do have really good tread on them. So you're kind of wondering, well, why don't I keep them? Well, one of the things about these tires that I don't really like is they're pretty generic. This is a 16-inch wheel, and this is a 225 60 series tire, so it's got a fair amount of sidewall on it. And at the time, this car would have came with a set of Goodyear Gatorback Eagle tires, and they actually looked pretty nice. They were actually the same tires that would have come on a Ford Mustang at that time, and they had a nice aggressive tread pattern, and they were directional looking tires then, and nice chunky sidewalls. So they were a nice looking tire on the car, but unfortunately they no longer are available. And so what you've got pretty much is an all-season replacement. These happen to be Tiger Paw Touring All Season. They're a great tire if you just want to drive around in the car, but they're not a performance tire. The other thing about these tires and wheels is this is a 7-inch wide rim, and these tires are a little narrow and they looked a little bit lost in the wheel wells of the Thunderbird. So I wanted to put a little wider tire on the car. I wanted to have more of a performance tire, but I still wanted to keep this look. I'd like the center caps to cover up the lug nuts that this wheel would have. I like the directional turbine fin look of these wheels, but I didn't like the fact that Ford didn't make directional wheels, meaning that the wheel on the driver's sides would spin in one direction and the wheel on the other side would be reversed, so it looked like it's spinning the same way. Basically, the driver's side wheels look correct, the passenger side wheels look like they're going backwards, and I didn't like that. So that's another thing I wanted to update on the car. So I wanted a wider rim. I wanted something that would fill out the fender wells a little bit more, not really be a bigger tire, but come out a little bit more on the car. And you'll see that when we get done with this and I show you the final product. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and I'm going to bring you over the tires and wheels that I'm going with. And you're going to take a look at those and maybe I'll do a comparison between the two. Okay, so this is the rim that I'm going with. As you can see, again, it is a directional type of spoked rim. It does have a center cap across the middle that hides the lug nuts, very similar to the Thunderbird. In fact, the Thunderbird fender caps, the Thunderbird center caps will fit these wheels, so I can keep the look of an original like wheel on this car. This is a 17-inch wheel and it's 8.5 wide compared to the 16x7 wheel. So this is an inch taller and an 1.5 inches wider. For tires, I chose a Michelin tire, 255/45/17. This tire is over an inch wider than the tires that are originally on the car. They have a much shorter, more performance-looking sidewall. And as you can see, tread-wise, they're much more of a performance-looking tire. Although these still are an all-season rated tire. I think that just because of these little bits in the tread here, make it an all-season tire. But for me, this is what I was looking for, the narrower sidewall, the wider tire, the rim that's going to fill it out the wheel wells much better. This is a nice upgrade for the car. So now the question is, what does it take to put these tires and wheels on this car to change the bolt pattern? How much of a job is that? And it's a pretty big job. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to put this at pretty solid 8. There's going to be some specialized tools that you're going to need to do this. There's a lot of research that went into this to make sure I had the right combination of parts, and I'll go over all that with you next. What is needed to do this job is you're going to have to replace your hubs, all 4 corners, and I'll start with what I had to do with the front and why. So this is a new front hub right here, and this has the correct 4.5-inch bolt pattern. These are hubs to fit a 94 and newer, I think 94 to 2003 Ford Mustang. They come complete with bearing assemblies. You will need to put a new nut on this. When you replace these hubs, the nut needs to be replaced every time because it will lose its locks on, and it will need to be replaced with a new nut. The other one will loosen on you. So one of the things that need to be replaced are the brake rotors. The bolt pattern is obviously different, though I thought possibly just slotting the bolt pattern out 1/8 of an inch would work, but unfortunately the center hole on these is different. So new rotors are needed. These happen to be for a Ford Mustang GT. They are almost an exact match. There's one small difference in these, in that this height here is 3 millimeters higher, meaning the rotor sits back 3 millimeters, but there's enough adjustment within the calipers on the car that these rotors will work. And of course, when you're doing rotors, you are going to replace your brake pads. Now, this car probably had new brakes put on the front at some point because they were in pretty good shape. But I've got new Duralast semi-metallic brake pads for the car, so that should be a good upgrade. So this is everything needed for the front. Now I'll bring over the stuff that's needed to do the rear. And that's where things get a little bit complicated, and that's what takes this project from being a 5, you know, if you could do brakes, you could do this type of project, to more of a solid 8 out of 10 because of what you need to do to put the hubs on. So here are the bits and pieces to do the rear. Again, we're going to replace the hubs for the independent rear suspension. These look very similar to the front, but there's a big difference. One thing is you can see they're splined. These are hubs that would fit a 99 to 2003 Ford Mustang Cobra, which came with independent rear suspension. They use the same style hub, just the bolt circle is different on these. I bought these through a company called Full Tilt Boogie Racing. They reproduce these. They are specialists in the 99 to 2003 Ford Mustang independent rear suspension. They reproduce these for a lot less money than Ford produces them for or sells them for. If I went to a Ford dealer or found them online, these were $300 a piece. I bought 2 of these with the bearings assembly and the lock nuts for about $200 plus shipping. So this is a much better deal, exactly the same. And they're actually built a little bit better. They actually put a coating on them that prevents them from rusting that the factory ones don't have. Once again, though, there is an issue with the rotors. The center hub size is larger, so the standard rotors would not fit. So I had to replace the rear rotors. That required getting Ford Mustang Cobra rear rotors, which are a little bit taller. They're almost an inch taller, actually. The stock ones, I think, are 10-inch. These are 11-inch, pretty close to the size of the front wheel. So these had to be replaced. So I picked up new ones of these. Now, I did go through and paint this section of it because this section always rusts on these, and I want them to look a little bit nicer for a longer period of time. New brake pads. Also, while you're doing this, and this is where it gets a lot more difficult, you have to press in new bearings onto these hubs. So it means you have to remove the rear spindle from the car, put it on a shop press the hub out, then turn it over and press the bearing out, press in new bearings, press in the new hub. That required a shop press, and it has to be at least a 20-ton shop press because these hubs were a little bit difficult to press out. But I was able to get them out. I've got one side done. I'm just assembling the other side, and I'm going to be doing that next. The other piece that's required that I don't have yet, but it was due to be delivered in any minute, there needs to be an adapter to move the brake caliper out a little bit to clear these new rotors. Also, these rotors, again, this section here is higher, so the rotor's going to move in a little bit. And so the adapters not only move it out, so that it clears the 11-inch rotor versus the 10, but it also moves it in a little bit. So I will show you those adapters in a bit when they show up. They're post offices, they're coming in postal mail today, and literally the mail truck is down the street. So we will get that in a few minutes. Hi. This is just what I need to put my car back together.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. So here's the other part I've been needing to finish this upgrade. And this is the brake caliper relocation kit. And it's made up of these 2 brackets here that will mount in the stock locations and then allow you to remount the calipers over just a little bit, as you can see. And the kit comes with all the hardware. Supplier of this kit is Super Coupe Unlimited. They're based in Ohio, and they specialize in these Super Coupes. And they do make a lot of parts, but they also do a lot of performance upgrades to Super Coupe. So you could probably easily go to them and have it done. Or like me, you could order the kits directly from them. I will put their information to contact them in the description. So as you can see, this is a little bit more than just a simple little project, and I'll show you, I'm halfway through it at this point. We will show a little bit more of what I'm going through to do this project with you as I continue on the other side, and I'll show you the finished results. So let's take a look at where I'm at. This is the left side of the Ford Thunderbird, and this is the front wheel. So I removed the caliper and hub, and I'm getting ready to clean things up and get ready to be reassembled with the new hub and brake rotors and brake pads. One of the things that when you do this is the bearings need to be preloaded, so when you tighten down the nut, it has to be torqued to 240 to 250 foot-pounds. So you're going to need a big torque wrench to do that. I don't have one, but I have a neighbor who works on diesel trucks. He offered to let me use his this weekend and torque this down. Let's take a look at the rear. This is the driver's side rear. I haven't taken anything apart on this side yet, but we'll take a look at the other side, which is partially taken apart. This is the passenger side rear. This has the new hub, the new bearing. This is the spindle that you have to remove, so you have to unbolt it here, here, and remove it once you take off all the brake assembly. This is the brake caliper. It's getting ready to be reinstalled. I've been waiting for those brackets, which will mount here and then move the brake caliper out a little bit. I've also removed the dust shield and I've painted that. And you also, because the brake calipers are bigger, I modified the dust shield a little bit so it fits a little bit better. This is the right front. This side is completely done. The calipers have been repainted. The new rotors are on. New brake shoes are in place. The new hub is in place. It needs to be torqued down. That's why the cap isn't on it at this point. But this side is pretty close to being done. Basically just torquing it is all that's left. This is the shop press. I bought this through Harbor Freight. It is a 20-ton shop press. It's basically a bottle jack here that pushes this slide down, and this is your pressure point. Down here you would place your spindle on these plates. These plates can be arranged in any way that needed, including standing them on their end, which allows you to adjust the spindle and the bearings and the hubs so that they can be pressed out. You want to use something like a socket like this of certain diameters to fit whatever you're pressing out so that you're hitting on exactly what you want to and not something that you shouldn't be. You'll also need, in this case, this is the old bearing. I actually tapered this so that it doesn't fit in, it fits in loosely, and I use this to press the new bearing in place. So it's a little bit of a process to do this, and I'll show you a little bit of it when I do the other side. Well, I finished all the work on the Thunderbird. I've got the new wheel hubs on, all the bearings in place, new brakes put around, all the way around on it, and the wheels are mounted and balanced and are on the car. This should make a huge difference in how the car looks, so let's pull the car out now and take a look. Well, hopefully you can see the huge transformation in how these tires and wheels made for this car. It is probably one of the best upgrades you can do to any vehicle is by upgrading to this would be considered a +1 tire and wheel package. Now we have 255/45 series tires on a 17-inch wheel. The stock tire and wheel combination was 16-inch wheels with a 225/60 series tire. So considerably less sidewall, but the overall tire is the exact same height as what was on the car originally. So no messing up with the speedometer or anything, all that stuff works just fine. And the Thunderbird happened to have such large fender wells that these tires fit in here very nicely. Now this isn't for the faint of heart. This was a very involved process to swap these wheels onto this car because the Ford Thunderbird did not come with the correct bolt pattern to put these wheels on. But fortunately, there's enough interchangeability between the Thunderbird and the different year Mustangs that I could replace the front hubs with Mustang hubs very simply, and the front wheels bolted right on. I had to change the brake rotors, hence I did a whole brake job on the front of the car. In the rear, it was much more involved, as replacing the hubs in the rear involved taking the spindles off and pressing out the bearings and the hub and pressing in new hubs and bearings. So a little bit more involved. That's where it gets much more difficult, because if you don't have a bearing press, you're gonna have to take it out and have someone do it. And probably a lot of people aren't familiar with pressing these bearings and hubs off, and you gotta be very careful that you don't wreck the bearings. Thankfully, I was able to get the hubs, and the people who provided the hubs provided detailed instructions on how to replace the bearings, and I followed their instructions and their video, and it worked very well. I think I had one issue with one set of bearings that were very stuck in the spindle, and I actually had to heat the spindle up just a little bit to get those bearings out. But the end result was worth it. New bearings all the way around doesn't hurt. New brakes all the way around doesn't hurt either. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have a Thunderbird, leave me a comment. Have you done this swap on your Thunderbird, or are you considering doing it? I'd love to hear from you. And what type of issues maybe did you run into, or if you do have any questions, if you're considering doing this, let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. I've now got experience doing this, so I'd love to share that experience with anybody who's interested. I want to thank everyone for clicking on this video and watching this video and supporting this new channel. And please check out our other videos and enjoy your drive. Take care, everybody.